Hi and welcome everyone, my name's Dom and this is Dominish Books. Today I've got an impromptu tag video for you, so let's go and find out what it's all about. So this tag is just a random one, it's not really come from anywhere. I've seen variations of it done on Instagram and I wanted to do something where I could talk about a couple of books just quickly with a couple of prompts and not think too much about it. So I've just quickly gathered 5 different books from my shelves and I'm going to talk about them here in the guise of a white wedding tag. So what's the old saying for weddings? Something old, something new, something borrowed and something blue. That's what I'm going to talk about. So we start off with something old, and this has actually come from my unhaul box. It's a book that I haven't read. I've had it for a while, I got it secondhand, and I've just not got round to it, and quite frankly I never will, so I'm sorry if that really offends anybody. But from 1977, this is my copy of The Silmarillion. So this is a really old copy anyway, it's not a recent print, it's actually from 1977 as I say, and you can tell that it's very old. It's got actually a sprayed edge, but just on the one side. It's not in the greatest of shape. I suppose for something that's older than I am, it's not in too bad condition, but it's definitely seen better days, with the dust jacket showing signs of wear and tear there. But it's actually got in the back, if I just drop the dust jacket, a nice fold out map stuck, if I can unfold it, stuck to the back page. So that's pretty neat. So I'm hoping that somebody will actually want this book if I donate it to a local charity, or if you're in the UK and you'd like it for the cost of postage, drop me a line and it's yours. But this one doesn't mean anything to me because I've no real attachment to it. I like Tolkien, I like The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but it doesn't make me want to really delve deeply into the world. I kind of got this book because I saw it in a secondhand bookshop and it was next to nothing for me to buy, and it was a Tolkien to add to my collection, but I don't collect things just for the sake of it, and so because I've not read it in all the years that I've had it, it's time to say goodbye to this one. My pick for something new is a book that I got this year, hence being new, and it's one that I actually haven't read this copy because I had an advanced review copy on my Kindle before the book itself came out, but I knew I was going to get it anyway because this is basically an auto-buy author for me. So this is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. So first things first, a lot of people have said over the months that this book has been out that the cover, if I display little dinky little person on there as well, the cover is absolutely stunning. If you like dragons, and I've said about it recently, who doesn't like a dragon on a fantasy book? That looks absolutely stunning and is great on the shelf, even though just spine out as I have all of my books, there isn't quite as much on display. I really liked this book though. It's very different to The Faithful and the Fallen. It was a completely different world, so you're going to get that anyway, and it's a brand new series as well from this author. So for me it was a little bit slow as it was setting things up, introducing the world, introducing the characters and the plot and so forth, but I definitely enjoyed this book. You might just want to brush up on your Icelandic first though before reading it, because there are a lot of references, a lot of Icelandic terms that are used in this book, and it can be a little bit jarring if you're not ready for it. Perhaps not as jarring though as the word fort cage, which is overused in this book to refer to the mind or the brain. That's one that has definitely had a lot of comments that I've seen, and I agree with them. It's just a little bit weird, but it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the book overall. My pick for something borrowed is maybe a little bit of a tenuous link, because this is a book that was actually mine. I picked it up about 20 years ago when I saw it in a charity shop in Oxford, and I just recognised the cover. Hadn't read anything by the author, but I was intending to, and actually it took me another 20 odd years, because it was only this year, for me to actually read my first book from the author, in which time I'd given this book away to my best friend, and I borrowed it back recently just to have a look at it essentially, because it is a kind of special edition of Fool's Errand, The Tawny Man Book 1 by Robin Hobb. So if you're familiar with your Robin Hobb, you might notice this looks a little bit strange because it's not normally just that purple colour. This is normally a full colour copy, but this one is an advanced review copy as well. So this is an uncorrected proof of the opening book in the Tourneyman trilogy. So again, I haven't read this one. I've only just started this year my journey in the realm of the Elderlings. I've only read Assassin's Apprentice to this point. I will be reading at least one more book in the Farseer series by the end of the year, or at least that's the plan. But it's going to take me a little while to get to the Tourneyman, and I'll have to borrow this back from my best mate if I want to read a physical copy of it. For Something Blue, I've gone for a book that I've not spoken about, I don't think, on my channel, and it's one of these books that I wanted to just highlight, I suppose, because you don't see it spoken about very much in the community. So this one is book 2 of a series, but it is The King of the Crags by Stephen Dias. This is, first of all, a really nice cover. I like that deep dark blue, and obviously it's got some nice dragons on there as well, and I've already spoken about loving a nice dragon on the cover. So the whole trilogy are all about the same size, so they're not very long books. This one is a little bit shy of 400 pages, and it's a trilogy about dragons and dragon riders, and it's very much a political novel. There's a lot of political intrigue, there's a lot of battling to take control of the country, not in terms of war necessarily, but in terms of the behind the scenes kind of thing, and you've got assassinations and plots and all sorts in there. But you've also got your dragons as well, because this is a nation of dragon riders, or at least they have dragon riders as part of their nobility and part of their fighting force. So a really interesting series. I can't remember what it's called, and do you know, I've just had a look on the book and it doesn't say in the book. I can't remember if the series is called A Memory of Flames or if that is a separate book, but this is book 2. Book 1 is The Adamantine Palace, and it's got a nice map in there of the Dragon Realms. I do love a good map in a fantasy book, but also it's got, before the map, you've got a nice couple of kind of family trees of the kings and queens of the plains and the king of the world spine. So that's interesting. I've not seen that in fantasy books, but could be quite useful because we know how complex these things can sometimes get. So that is The King of the Crags anyway by Stephen Dias, and if you're looking for something that's not too long, bit of political intrigue and a bit of dragon riding, knock yourself out with The Adamantine Palace, King of the Crags, and then book 3 is The Order of the Scales. And then because I called this one randomly The White Wedding Tag, the last book that I'm going to pick is a book that's white. So this one I've gone with another book that's not really spoken about too much and is also a bit of an old one. This is Lankmar by Fritz Leiber. So this one's actually a bind-up. It's also known as Swords and Deviltry, I believe, and this is several stories. I don't think it's a trilogy bind-up. I think there's 3 main stories and then maybe 2 short stories in here as well. But this is a story, or one of these collections of stories, I should say, of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. So these are 2 of kind of sword and sorcery's kind of real heroes, real early heroes. So although this particular version is from 2008, the original stories are from the 50s and I think actually a bit earlier as well than the 1950s. So this is some real classic fantasy. Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser are 2 of the, as I say, the early heroes. You've got a barbarian Fafhrd and then the little thief, the Grey Mouser. And they get up to so many different stories. So there's loads of little short stories involving this partnership, and that's why you can often find a bind-up like this collating 3 or 4 or 5 of them together in the one place. But for a classic fantasy, I quite enjoyed this one. It wasn't one of my favourites, but definitely well worth a read, especially if you're looking for some good old-fashioned classic sword and sorcery fantasy. And then for every wedding, you need a couple of witnesses. So I'm going to tag a couple of people here, invite them to the party to see if they want to do a white wedding tag of their own. So first of all, I'm going to choose Ursi from Circe's Books. I started watching her channel recently and there's some really great content on there. So get yourself over. I will link her channel in the description box below. Go watch a few videos, and if you like her content, hit the subscribe button whilst you're over there. And the second person I'm going to tag is Stephanie from Ms. Richards Reads. This is another great channel with a lot of awesome and varied content. Stephanie recently tagged me in the Robin Hobb tag, so I'm going to repay the favour and invite her to do this tag. So 2 great channels, you'll find them in the description box below. Go and check them out if you haven't already done so. That's it for today though. Thank you for watching the White Wedding book tag. Drop some comments down below and let me know what your answers would be to these 5 quick questions. I'll hopefully catch you in another video soon, but until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye bye for now.